Santiago Arana, welcome to Forward One Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Feel honored.
Grateful for you being here, man. We got a lot to learn, a lot to share. So
Let's
thank
do
you
it.
for being collaborative with us.
And it's been a long time, but we originally started working together a long time ago. And to watch your career, so many people start in real estate, and to watch your career just separate out from the everybody else has been really amazing. So give us a little background in terms of,
when did you start, where'd you start, and how did things progress?
Of course. Thank you for that, by the way. I don't know if I separated from everybody else, but I think everybody has their own trajectory and journey, which has been amazing, and I'm very grateful for. Where do we start? We started at Keller Williams in Beverly Hills, right? 2004.
Wow.
That's what it was.
Me, I missed that,
Yeah, that's where I started. I literally just moved to LA from Santa Barbara. I was in Santa Barbara for a year prior when I arrived from Bolivia. And I was basically learning English in Santa Barbara. And I just feel that this story has been told so many times, but I guess I'll just say it one more time.
Yeah, please.
Love it.
So I finished business in university in Bolivia, and I won a scholarship to do a master's degree in finance that was only taught in English and in Hebrew. It was through the Embassy of Israel, and it was to be done in a kibbutz in Israel.
Wow.
Because my dad went in there. No, we're not Jewish, because everybody asked that question. It's like, oh, you're Jewish? I didn't know. Like, no. Not that I know, at least. I was raised Catholic, but my dad lived in Israel and studied in a kibbutz, and he contributed with some sort of like invention of irrigation. He's an engineer, and they were very grateful. And they say, "You have kids?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a 1-year-old." It was 1981.
Wow.
And they said, when your son is old, we'd love to offer paid scholarship of any kind here. Situation in Bolivia in 2002 was not great. I was 22. I just finished business and marketing, and I was my first job working at the National Institute of Statistics, getting there in the morning, sitting in front of a computer and having no clue what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm there, I have a job, I'm getting paid, but I'm like, is this it? I mean, like, this is horrendous.
Yeah.
Not to mention the situation in the country was like very scary. And a few weeks after I started there, in La Paz, they tried to kill the president. The police went in to try to get him, and he escaped, and the army came to defend him, and they killed 100+ people. You can Google it.
Wow.
The bloody, what was it?
Attempted coup.
Yeah, it was like 2002. President at the time escaped to the United States. He lives here since then in Miami.
Wow.
Marcelo Sanchez de Lozada was his name. And from that point, I went to my dad, and I'm like, maybe I should do something, go and do a master's degree and something, and come back when things mellow, and better resume, better job. He's like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. He brought the whole Israel situation. I'm like, they're not going to remember that. He's like, no, they will. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we walk into the embassy, and they did.
Wow.
And they were like, yeah, Mr. Arana, no problem. We can offer. There's one in something with engineering, which I didn't study. And then it was finance. I was like, yeah, I can use that. And I'm filling the forms, and they're like, usually I take an English, one in Hebrew. I'm like, I don't speak any of them,
Right.
but zero, nothing. So they say, if you can learn one of the two, come back next year, we'll offer it to you. I say, okay. So I leave, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to go and learn English. I'm going to go to classes, I'm going to get out, have a girlfriend, have friends. It's like, I need to be by immersion, so England, United States, somewhere. And my mom's like, I have a cousin, I think lives in somewhere. I don't even know where it was. And it's funny, I'll bring why it's funny. So she called her, and she said, yeah, he can come and crash on my couch for 8 months. I'll give him breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes, and that's it. I said, okay, 8 months, that works. So I packed my backpack, I remember my duffel bag, and I had saved by then $120, which was a lot of money for me at the time. And I got on an airplane. I arrived to Miami, and she had wrote a letter in English explaining that I was invited by her and the whole thing, because I couldn't speak English. And although the people in the airport in Miami are Cuban and speak perfect English and Spanish, they seem to like to give a hard time to people who doesn't speak English. So I knew she spoke Spanish, and she only spoke to me in English. I handed the letter, and she looked at me, and she's like, oh, Santa Barbara, very nice. and lets me in. And in my mind, I was like, well, Santa Barbara. Like for me, it's like you could tell me you're going to Wichita, and I'll be fine, right? I was just happy to be coming here. Arrived to LAX at 3 a.m. My aunt came pick me up. We drove at night to Santa Barbara to the coast, which I didn't see because it was night.
Right.
I was tired. I woke up the next day, and she lived in Summerland, like a block from the ocean. I remember waking up, looking at the window, and there's the ocean right there. And I was like, literally just put my shoes on and ran to the ocean. I was just so happy because, I grew up in landlocked country, right? So the ocean for me, I only seen it once at the time.
And what an epic view from LAX to Santa Barbara, which you didn't see.
Right.
You didn't know what you were getting.
Yeah. Not until later. I'm like, oh, I drove this?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how it started. I ran out of the money quickly and, asked my aunt for some money to buy a beer or something. And she told me, go get a job. So she kind of Americanized me really quickly.
Yep.
And it was, interesting. It was difficult because, Bolivia at the time, when I was living there, you get to live with your parents until you're doing well in your job or you get married. And so you can, you have help, right? Yeah. And you have housekeepers and you have this. And for me, it was like a complete shock, which was awesome. Yeah. I'm grateful for it. So she said, you can work in a restaurant. And I was like, okay, doing what? Like, I can speak, right? She's like, cleaning the tables. I was like, okay. So long story short, we ended up throwing some resumes in Montecito, and one of the restaurants took me. Cool Brazilian general manager came out, and he looked at me. He's like, you don't speak English, right? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, it's okay. Yeah. And so he started speaking Portuguese, which I spoke a little bit at the time. I forgot most of it now. And then he said, go get blue shirts, black pants, shoes, start tonight. And I started in this place called Cava that closed about a couple of years ago, right in Montecito on Coles Villas Road. And that's how I started working in the restaurant, picked up the English. I was going at night to ESL, English as second language, taking the bus after work. And within 3.5 months, 4 months, I started to communicate. And I went to him and I said, can I be a waiter? Like, I like to make more money. I think I can talk with people and make you money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so then I became a waiter. And
that was like 3 or 4 months in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then it became more interesting. Because now I understand. Now I hang out. Now, here and there were like cute girls that will come and give me telephone numbers. Yeah. So now I'm like happy, right? It's Montecito, and I
got a good reason.
And I'm like sitting English there one day, and Oprah comes, and then I wait on Brad Pitt, on Kevin Costner, and so I get exposed like a full dose of like a different world for me, right? So I'm seeing all these celebrities, and I'm walking outside, and there's a line of Ferraris parked outside. So like it was like, for me, it was like an injection of
American
hunger, wanting to have that, right? It's like, I want to be a part of this. I want a piece of this. Yeah. What do I do, right? So the ambition really kicked in at that moment. And within like 8 months to a year, I ended up waiting on a table to 2 couples. And that was my future wife, which is my ex-wife now. And that's how I met her. And, somehow I scored the number, and she was living in LA, and we started to date, and I started coming back and forth from LA. I used to take the Amtrak, and she used to drop me off on Sundays. At the point that, I fell in love, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do the master degree anywhere. Like, I want to stay here, right? Yeah. So I ended up moving to LA. And when I moved to LA, I immediately got a job at a restaurant, I think, in the Valley called Café Bisou. And Sherman Oaks, and on Ventura Boulevard. And then I ended up working in a bunch of restaurants everywhere here. I mean, McCormick's Mix, I remember, Rodeo, El Cielo. Finally ended up at L'Orangerie, which was the best restaurant at the time. So I kind of quickly, elevated the escalator of restaurants. Because I was like, okay, if I want to work 4, 5, 6, which I was working 6 shifts a week, and I'm making $80 per dinner at Café Bisou, I could be making $500 at L'Orangerie or something like that.
And I will say that, first of all, Montecito's not Wichita.
Yeah.
Montecito sits
Right.
it's a national podcast, and Santa Barbara, I think people know Montecito is a suburb essentially, but it's a very wealthy suburb of Santa Barbara. And so would not be uncommon, for example, for Oprah to come through. And it's also a small town. So, in LA, sure, there's stars in LA, but it's spread out. But Montecito's
concentrated.
One of the top per capita in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other piece too is that going from Cafe Bisou, which is a fine place on Ventura Boulevard, and my fiance Sarah and I recently were watching the Netflix special on chefs, and L'Orangerie and the way that they run their operation. And I went to L'Orangerie, so I remember. I mean, to be hired as a waiter at L'Orangerie, I mean, forget it. You've got to be top A++, never miss. Am I wrong?
And that was my challenge, right? Because I was here trying to get job. I went to Koi so many times because Koi was the place.
Yep.
Not only was cool to work there, but you made a lot of money.
Yeah.
So was the Abbey on Robertson, right?
Okay.
They rejected me 20 times in each of them, right?
There you go.
So because I was competing with actual professional waiters or with professional actor waiters that they were there for 20 years, right?
Yep.
So it's like, they had a resume. Like I couldn't go around that. So the L'Orangerie situation became something that I was like, what's the best restaurant? I was talking to my ex-wife at the time. She's like, oh, L'Orangerie. I literally drove into the restaurant around 2 p.m. There was nothing happening because it's only for dinner. And I walked in and I knew how the resumes were being most of the times just disposed by the hostess. They never made it to the right person. So I literally walked I asked, where's the office? I need to drop something off. They put me out. I went to the second floor and I walked in, and there was the owner of L'Orangerie and the general manager, who was very protective at the time. And within 20 seconds, I didn't know which one the owner was, but I just basically said, listen, I need to get a job here. I came prepared, blah, blah, blah. Like I literally made my mind that I was getting a job there and I'm ready to start immediately and you want me.
Yeah.
And I remember this older man, Gerard Ferry. He got up and he's like, oh, talk to me. And he was the owner, obviously. And I can see the manager was completely
nervous.
Right? He was like, who are you?
This guy's intruding our space.
and I connected immediately with the owner. And he saw something that you see when people made up their mind that they want to do something, right? Yeah. So there is value on that. I think smart people, smart businessmen see that. I see it now when I hire people, when I see young guys. I know who has it, who doesn't, and who really, right? So so he gave me an opportunity. I started that day. He's like, you have black pants, you have white shirt? I said, yes. You have nice shoes? I said, yes, I have nice shoes. And he said to the manager, give him one of the vests and see you tonight.
Wow.
I waited on a table in L'Orangerie that the bill was $100,000, and I made $20,000 of commission.
Wow!
As I was working on Keller Williams.
Wow!
Yeah,
I was thinking the whole time. I'm thinking about that.
That's crazy, and it's interesting, because generally people in the restaurant business refer to it as a tip, but when it's $20,000, commission does make sense.
Yes, I love it. And
so it was like 100, right? It was like a family. I remember, but the thing that was interesting for me that really got me even more ambitious was, that was that table. It was a family with 3 or 4 kids, each of the kids and adult kids with their significant others, the father, obviously the mother. It was like a 12 table. And there was like food, Chateau Petrus box, Chateau Petrus, like the Grand Dame, Rosé, Dom Perignon, a couple huge bottles of that. So it really got fast to the money. But what was interesting to me was the dentist with the wife. They came every Thursday and dropped $2-3 grand for dinner.
Wow! Right.
So I was like, okay, so there are people, not the 100 table, but the 3,000 a week on dinner, like as a.
It's a constant.
It's like, I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So there was a number of things that I learned, I watched, and also helped me a lot with the real estate is like learn the moment that someone sat on the table, at some point I would know if they're cheap, if they're generous, if they were nice, if they were assholes, if they were polite, if they're going to be whatever, right? So the ability to read people is served me tremendously on the real estate business.
Yeah. Know your audience is huge. Yeah.
And look, I got to just observe a few things, just the initiative and the confidence, but I think juxtaposed with humility and perseverance, that's a powerful combination, right? And people feel and sense that, along with authenticity, because I can assure you that owner felt your passion, but he felt like your authenticity and your confidence in yourself and your willingness to do what it takes to make it work.
I think so.
Yeah. And then also just that, what you learned about, I wear it on my wrist, environment matters, like who you surround yourself with. I mean, you've always seen the best people in whatever you're doing, and then that becomes your new baseline and standard. Right. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
And again, not to take anything away from Cafe Bisou, you're not going to get the client exposure and you're in its own way. It's a career trajectory, if not actual literal, certainly a metaphor of career trajectory, because there are people that stick around and now it's the metaphor. There are people that stick around and do a good job and get paid pretty good money at Cafe Bisou forever. There are people in real estate that stick around and do a really good job at at an average sales price around here forever. And then there are people that just
are always elevating.
That see that like where can this go? And how can I get there, and where do I insert myself into that?
Right.
What drives that, if I may ask? Like, well, obviously you have tremendous ambition and drive and obviously always looking at where is the best in what I'm doing and how do I get there and perhaps beyond. Like, where does that come from?
I think it's changed as people change and you mature and life happens. We're talking about 2004 being 24 and now being 45. There's different priorities. There's different, you become a different person, right? So I think that what at the time was, that need of money, of success, of wanting to have things that I didn't have, or wanting to drive that Ferrari that people were having, and why not, right? Why I never saw I would never have that.
Yeah.
Right? For me,
if
it was
they can do it, why can't I?
For me, it was like when I'm gonna have it, right? So, so that motivation earlier was one, wanting to have more, wanting to have a nice life, because I lived in LA. When I moved here and I decided to do real estate, because I was like, okay, the restaurant is great and it pays the bills, but if now I'm married and I want to build a family and, I know I can do other things, right? So when I was looking for a job, once I translated my degrees into the equivalent here, which it was business administration and major marketing, I was going to insurance companies, I was going to different places, and they were offering me jobs like 80, 70 grand with benefits, right? Dentist and doctor, whatever. And I was like, okay, that's good, but I make more in cash. So if I stay there for 10 years or 15 years, how far I will go, right? So, okay, you can make, at the time, I'm talking about 24, right? Or 2004. 250 grand. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then somebody said real estate, which I really didn't know what it was. I'm like, what's real estate? It was my cousin, actually, that was living in Santa Barbara. He was doing loans when I was living there. He will sit in his computer for 3 hours and then go surf the rest of the day. And I'll be like, what do you do? Because, he's eating in good places. He's dressed nice. So he's doing mortgages. And I said, can I do that? And he's like, yes. He's like, yeah, you need to get a license. But with the same license, you can do real estate. And you do better there. This is boring. You have, you like people and this. I said, okay, what's real estate? And he explained to me. I was like, oh, really? Like, in Bolivia, we have that. It's called bienes raíces. But
I'm sorry?
Bienes raíces.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like, it never crossed my mind that that's something that I wanted to be or do. Never. Especially down there, how it was done. I think maybe things change now. But basically, once he said that, I came down here and I got my license. My ex-wife was flying with someone in the airport that gave her the Gary Keller book.
Oh, wow.
She came back from Dallas and she said, met this guy, seemed really cool. Here's his card. He gave me this book. And he connected me with Madison Offenhauser.
Wow.
I came to meet Madison and I just got in there because that was the path that was put. Easy path, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's how the real estate thing started for me. from that point, I decided to go in real estate because I went and look up who are the top agents in LA. And like how much money a top agent makes, right? And at the time was some of them $800 to $1 million. I was like, okay, better than $250 and a corporate thing that I need to take, right? So I said, okay, I like that better. So that's when I decided to do real estate. What I didn't know is that you need to know people that you're gonna sell houses to, right? And I don't know anyone. Like literally, I know my wife, and I know some of the guys in the restaurant, but I had to do all the basics, right? So go door knocking, cold calling, which did not work well because my English is not good now. Imagine what it was at the time. You couldn't understand. Probably you remember, like it's very different, right?
Yeah.
So getting on a call and trying to get someone to pay attention to me at the time was very difficult. So I quickly decided, that's not for me. But door knocking and sitting open houses work better. I think for whoever's listening to this or watching this, the big takeaway, because the rest is just normal stuff, right? For me, the big takeaway is on the change of attitude and the way how I was thinking, how my attitude was, and what changed. And that's really when I felt the difference. So for that, about a year that I was at Keller Williams, I was doing every single thing because I needed to do. That was what you needed to do. So I picked a farm because they told me to picking a farm is the right thing. Tried to make it in a flat area so you don't need to be going up and down the hills, all these things. So I picked Miracle Mile.
Yep.
It was close to the office. I lived in Los Feliz. It was like, that sounds good. What I didn't know is like a heavily Jewish community, very scary people. They don't open the door to a dark Latino that doesn't speak good English, right? So 9 out of 10 times they're slamming the door. Who is this guy, right?
Yep.
So I grew pretty frustrated of doing that for months and having literally zero results. And in one of those moments of frustration, and that's when, the spirituality part of me now that has evolved more now in later years, I understand now that at the time I was literally talking to myself. I was like talking to God and I was talking to myself, asking for answers on very serious questions. And one of the questions was, there's got to be someone in this big city that has come from a similar place than me, and there's similar circumstances, that has done well, right? And I literally put that out to the universe. Within 2 days, somebody told me to meet this guy, Ted Fleming, who was working with Coldwell Banker down the street from Keller Williams on Cannon.
Yep.
I called this guy. I think my wife was going to some sort of class with baby and mom. I met the wife, and she said, my husband is in real estate. They should talk, something like that. And this guy, Ted Fleming, said, I'll meet with you for a quick walk or a coffee. He was also a young agent, my age. He was doing better than me. He was working with Peter Maurice at the time.
Yep,
sure.
And he says, I don't have really a lot of time. Let's take a walk around the block. And literally we went around the block. And in that around the block, he said, oh, have you met this guy, Rodrigo Iglesias from Argentina? And I went, no. He's like, oh, you should Google him and call him. That was it. I went back up to the office. I Googled and I looked what he was doing, which at the time he was probably one of the top 3 agents in LA.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I, for 3 months, tried to get a hold of this guy.
Wow.
And the assistants were like, sure, we'll let him know. Sure this, sure that, sure that. And one afternoon, I was driving from my house in Los Feliz on Sunset, literally right about here. And I'm about to make a left on La Cienega to go to L'Orangerie.
Yep.
And I get a call from one of the assistants and says, is this Santiago? I said, yeah. She's like, Mr. Iglesias, you've been wanting to meet with him. I said, yes. So he can meet you in 20 minutes in Brentwood. I'm like, on my way. I called Sig the restaurant, which was not easy because L'Orangerie had 3 waiters per night.
Wow.
There was no like, you're right. So when you didn't show up, it was not great.
Yeah.
And we pulled the tips too. So those 20 grand were pooled, right? I probably walked with 5 grand that night, which was a lot anyway. So I knew by me calling and doing that, it was not a great thing, but I had to take that opportunity because that's one of the things in life that when you ask for something and it comes, you got to take action.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't take action. You have to take action. So that was my
preaching
action.
the choir.
It gets better.
Yep.
So I drive all the way to Brentwood.
Yeah.
We were supposed to meet at Gaucho Grill on San Vicente, which is right across from my current office right now.
Right.
I sit there for an hour and a half. And he doesn't show up. Right? And I'm like pissed. I'm like, ugh. so disappointing, right? It's just another disappointment. And I remember not having that much money that I ordered an iced tea because I didn't want to spend money. And, so I pay for my iced tea and I'm leaving and get a call from a number that I didn't recognize. And it was him from his cell phone. And he's like, the guy is amazing. He's like, I forgot. I'm so sorry. Let me make it up to you. I completely forgot. So he was honest.
Yep.
And he said, how about if I buy you lunch tomorrow, same place? I said, done. So we met and he started by saying, listen, I have assistants. I don't need assistants. I'm sure they were calling him like they call me now, and it's a lot. And I said, listen, I don't want to be your assistant. I just want advice. I'm from Bolivia, and we start speak Spanish at the moment. And I said, I just want to know what do you do to be where you are, and I just want advice. And he said, okay, tell me what you're doing. So I tell him, I'm door knocking, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this is not working, and I'm doing this, and this is not working, and da 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 da. He gets up and leaves, and I'm like, oh shit, I piss him off. And goes outside to his convertible, grabs a book, comes back and gives it to me, and he's like, let's enjoy our lunch, go read this book and call me after. I said, okay. So I grabbed the book and I looked at it, and it was a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Wow.
And I went and I read the whole book. Big book, by the way, but I was hungry and I wanted a change. And so I went and I read the whole book, and, I understood that my attitude wasn't the wrong place, right? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Mm-hmm. So with the principles on that book and a few tips that he gave me about, what to do, see the open houses, we should talk to these like people, you need to bring value, things, he was a great mentor. Quickly things change. I all of a sudden, I was like, I'm not door knocking there anymore. I'm going to door knock around my house in Los Feliz, in the hills. I don't care if it's up and down or whatever. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I start getting appointments. And then I start sending letters and doing this. And I get a call for a listing appointment in Beverly Hills post office for a house that was probably worth 1.7, 1.8 at the time. And I was like, oh my God. Because when you start in real estate, people think that you start from the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. So I should be selling $100,000 condos. And I remember calling him and said, listen, I got a call for this. I don't feel confident enough to go and get the listing, and I don't want to waste this appointment. Mm-hmm. Will you come with me and split it? He's like, sure. So we went together, got the listing, sold that listing. While we were doing that, I door knocked in Beverly Hills, which was illegal at the time, and almost got arrested. But out of the door knocking day that I did that, I got a hold of somebody that was getting a divorce, and they called me for a $5 million listing appointment.
Wow.
So I called Rodrigo again, and he was at Sotheby's at the time. And I said, hey, I have another call. He's like, really? And he was excited, truly excited for me. Yeah. And I'm like, will you come with me again? It's $5 million. He's like, wow, let's go. Got that listing, and then, 2, 3 started to happen. And that's when he basically offered, well, no, we need to work closer. That's why I left Keller Williams. That's the truth. To the point that we ended up being partners, we worked together really well. We got along really well. He had an amazing business, and he had a need for somebody like me that could be in the open houses and represent him well. And I took advantage of that opportunity. And I started by just sitting his open houses to sitting our open houses of stuff that I generated and I brought to the table, to where 4 or 5 years later, we're 50-50 partners. And then we just kind of decided to go in separate ways. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like a little bit of my real estate story.
Mm-hmm. I always say, I got to just point out, like, earn the right to people's time, right?
Absolutely.
So like with initiative, with action, to your point,
absolutely,
with a coachability, and then create value for them, right?
Yeah.
That's how you earn the right to their time, right?
Yes.
And people sometimes they just feel like entitled, and that's just not the way it works, So
I have a script for it too, which I've used myself, not as often as maybe I could have, and it's worked every time. And that is, what would it take to earn the right to have coffee with you? So I'm not, when I'm asking that question, it's going to be like a billionaire or, right? And I, like I said, I haven't asked it enough, but I haven't gotten a no to that.
Yeah.
And, then to go to that meeting, the last thing you want to do is complain, right? But also being organized and having a list of, these are the 10 10 questions I really want to know. The other thing too is, of course, go in and to that meeting and figure out what could I possibly give that person that would be meaningful. You could just do some research. They like coffee, they like wine. If they love wine, you can't afford a Petrus, but they love coffee. You could certainly get, just the gesture itself too, and having real respect for their time.
And then go read the book.
Yeah, go read the book.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Which, how many people are going to actually read the book?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, not that many.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you focus on what value you bring more than what you're going to get out of it.
Yep.
That's a good starting point. So that was one of the things for the door knocking advice that he gave me. He's like, if they open the door and they're talking to you, why they want to talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it that you're going to tell them that they're going to be wanting to talk to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come up with something.
It's not what's in it for you. It's what's in it for them.
Right. Yeah, that was a question I was gonna ask. Is that what are some examples, usable examples of value that you could add? Because the tendency that people have, we just had like in our coaching class today, the tendency is like, oh hey, I'm Paul Morris. I'm new to real estate. Oh, I'm from wherever. It's like nobody cares about any of that.
Yeah.
And then conversely,
do you know what's going on in the neighborhood? Do you know that this home just listed or this just sold at this thing? Did you know there's a new coffee shop? Come with something that will be of interest and of value to them, and that's how you get their attention. Right.
A friend of mine, he just had me on his podcast. I'd be absolutely shocked if you didn't know him, Jeffrey Sod.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, right?
I'm having dinner with him next week.
Oh, you are really?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
I consider him to be a good friend.
The last podcast I did is at his house, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. And he fed us a Wagyu pastrami sandwich. So
amazing. And he gave me like some pork belly something too. Yeah, he's a great chef.
Yeah. So, he's great with scripts. He one of the things that he would do is, when he would knock on a door, if they were at all disinterested, which first of all, the number one response is no answer.
Right.
Okay. And then, and then if you get to the number two response, which is they answer, then they're like immediately shunning you away. And his response to that, to them shunning him away, was literally running away from them. So instead of like trying to, maul them or get into the conversation, be like, oh, you're busy. Okay, never mind. And then he would like throw like little pieces of value. And one of his little tricks was like, oh yeah, if you need anything, let me know. I know all sorts of, plumbers or whatever, like handyman. And he's like, everybody needs a handyman, Right. And like the number of times that people would say like, wait, handyman, and
stop.
And of course he had a list of really high quality vendors. So he'd be running away from the person and saying back to them, these are the things of value in case you want, I'm going to leave my thing here, and they'd be like, okay, hang on, wait a second. And it changes the energy and dynamic. And so that's cool. Jeffrey saw it.
Do you remember like some of the things?
What's different things? What was happening in the neighborhood? Or the most recent sale that was impressive to, your property pro is worth a lot more than what you think. Mm-hmm. And eventually turned into like me having a need. Like I have a buyer that is looking for something specifically. So I will go to that area with a specific need, with a buyer need. Yeah, it's real.
Right. And there's to distinguish that there are people that, they say they have a buyer when they really don't have a buyer.
Right.
And maybe they're better poker players than me. I'm not good at that.
Right.
If I have a real buyer, then
yeah, there's the thing that fake it until you make it. But I feel like so many people have done that already, that's one of the things that you actually don't want to do, because quickly, like what if they say, okay, show it, who's your buyer? Very quickly you can get caught into that. And unless you are a fake person that like generates a buddy of yours that is the fake buyer and I don't have time for that, right? So like for me, the whole energy feels wrong.
Right. Yep.
I don't, it doesn't go with who I am. Yeah.
Yep.
One of the things that you talked about was this sort of purposeful mindset, or this shift of
attitude
of being purposeful. And, there was a realtor it's been a long time, but she came to Keller Williams and she was already doing great, and then did like the 6 perspectives class or whatever it was. And she was already having the conversations, and her business was already very, very good. And she just shifted the conversation a little bit to make that conversation that she was already having more purposeful. And that generated a lot more results. And one of the things that I heard you say was just that attitude change and becoming much more purposeful and sort of standing into the success that you were going to generate. In other words, sort of being the success before having it. That's not fake it till you make it. But
right.
how did you get your mindset into that place?
So, reading that book, it opened up curiosity for me to wanting to understand more about those kind of books, which led me to, at the time, The Secret was the thing, came out. I remember my mother-in-law brought the DVD and said you should watch it, and I was sitting there and I didn't really pay attention to it until I read the book. And and it just awakened this curiosity and hunger for wanting to understand more how these things work, which is really the power of the mind, and in a sense, like our thoughts, we control our thoughts, right? The thoughts are the language of the mind, right? And then you have the emotions that get generated by what you think, and the emotions are the language of your heart.
Yep.
Which is what my dear friend Joe Dispenza talks and teaches, right? So, which makes all the sense of the world. And now that I'm here and I've done all that, right? The Secret started, and then that got me to read Think and Grow Rich, which is a book that I read once a year, and I teach a class about it.
Yep.
And people are like, why you read it so much? What are you going to find in a book that you read for 20 years? It's not about the book, it's about you.
Yeah.
There are things in the book that you're going to read this year that you weren't prepared to see the message because you weren't there. And this year you are, right? So there's discovery for me in that book on how I'm evolving. So to answer your question is, your reality gets created based on your thoughts and your emotions. We think, some people say 80%, some people say 90% of the same thoughts that we thought yesterday, today, and the day after, and so. So if you can have some sort of control of what you think and how you feel, and for me, that translates into visualizing before I go to bed, and visualizing or meditating as soon as I wake up. Before I do nothing, literally I go from the bed, all I do is change the position from lying to sitting, put an eye mask, and I go into meditating, because your brain waves are at a different frequency at that time. You're tricking your mind that you're in places that you're not, and you're feeling things that you want to feel that might not be yet, right? So if you can start creating that in your head, it's just natural that you're going to meet the right person. You're going to be ready to hear the right conversation at the right time that you wouldn't if you weren't in alignment to who you are or who you want to be. So because I want to do that and I want to be in that place, now I'm sitting at a restaurant and I hear somebody talking, and that word that I was waiting for, it sounds. And now I go and introduce myself to that person. Or someone introduced me to somebody that if I'm not there, I'm not going to pay attention. So the opportunity will come and go. So if you can prime yourself to a place where you can now be prepared for that. But not only that, I mean, for me, my day starts at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. I do the visualization, meditation for 30, 40 minutes. And then from there, I go to my breath work, and then I get in the cold plunge, and then I go to the gym, right? So for good 2 hours until I'm done with the gym, I have not looked at my phone. Zero.
That's
I have not, I have my family. They're the only ones that can call me when I have with Do Not Disturb, that they will come in through a text or a call for emergencies.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't need to look at my phone, because the moment you look at a text, the moment you look at something, it's just you're gone.
It's reactive and not proactive.
And exactly. Then the day owns you. I suppose you're owning the day. So that for me is a game changer. And I tell you, and I felt it, and people have told me, and doing what I do, which sometimes you don't do, right? I'm not going to say I'm perfect and I'm a robot. There are days where you went out, and that's why I don't go out during the week. That's why I don't drink alcohol during the week, or for most part now these days at all. It messes up your day. And if you show up at a 10, 11 o'clock listing appointment where they're meeting 4 other people, and when I show up and I'm on my program, people feel that energy. Like literally people feel attracted to you. They feel, because you feel so good, right? You are in a good vibration. And when you walk in that room and you talk to the people, I have people told me, you know what? I don't know why. I mean, obviously, yes, you have the qualification, this and that, but there's no other choice. Like I want to work with you, you know? And it's just such a great thing to hear, you know, and it's beautiful. And a lot of my business success I attribute to that more than how many doors I knock or how many this or how many. Yeah, the numbers, it's a numbers game. I get it. But Jeffrey and I share a good friend, which was my coach at the time, Steve Scholl.
Yeah.
And he's invited me multiple times to speak at his events. And every time I go and speak at events, or when I get invited to New York, to Inman, or to The Real Deal, or this and that, they always put me in panels with top agents in the country. And there's always the question like, what do you do? And what do you do? And what do you do? When it gets to me, I say exactly what I told you right now. This is what I do. I wake up at this time, I do this, I do that, and this is how my day goes. And almost every time towards the end, when you have the Q&As, some agent out of the 2,000 or 300, whatever the event is, lifts the hand, is like, that's really nice, but could you please tell us 1 or 2 secrets? What's the secret?
Yeah.
Right? And I just looked at him. I'm like, I just told you the secret. My secret, at least. What works for me might not work for you, but I'm here to tell you what works for me. And I go, one time, I remember the Skirball Center. I said, look, okay, are you ready? I'll tell you. You convinced me. I'm going to tell you the secret, right?
Yeah.
Take your notes. But out of the 500 of you right now, we come back in 3 months, not even a year, 3 of you is actually doing it, I'd be shocked. Shocked, because it's the execution too. It's like, you can sit down and meditate and visualize and do all that and wait for magic to happen. Magic is there, but magic only gets manifested in this physical reality if you take action. End of the story.
Action is the antidote.
Yeah.
And I'll say this to you, sort of two interesting
The
things.
shortcut, I can't help myself. Sorry to cut you off, Paul. I get asked it all the time. What's the shortcut? The shortcut is being disciplined and consistent. That's the shortcut, which is another way of saying what you just said, you know?
And for somebody that, I sort of repel the discipline and that, because I don't want to be stuffed into that box. It's just the things that you're passionate about, and the things, it's almost the answer to the question. People will ask him, what's your diet? And he says, well, what's your diet and exercise regime? I want to look good like you. And I've heard him ask that and answer it so many times. And he'll always say, look, I could tell you what I do, but you're probably not going to do it. So like, you've got to work within what you'll actually do to make some change.
You got to
everything.
Disciplined and consistent and authentic for you.
Well, different.
Yeah.
Right?
So
just find I think the most important thing for me, and this might go a little spiritual on this or no, is like, you need to know who you are, right?
Self-awareness.
Because this character, Paul or Santiago, names, right, is given by somebody, right? Most of your personality, your behavior, your ego, and everything is formed by a collection of programs, school, education, parents, growing up, raised by who or this, right? So that's not really you. That's who you think you are, right? But if you really have an understanding of who you are, what you want, and you're honest with yourself, which it takes a lot of courage, because sometimes you made decisions in your life that were based on this persona that really is not you. And it gets to a point where your soul gets tired of that and says, you know what, I had it, right? So why get to that point? Why don't you just go into a discovery of who you are, what works for you? Once you understand that, then you can be you. And when you're you might not get that client because it doesn't resonate with you, but the ones that they will, and you will get, you'll have the best time. It will be no work. Because you will be with the right people that get you, you get them, and everything will flow, and then you'll be, to me, that's how I live my life. Not to say that it's always like that. Sure. But for most part, it works that way.
Yeah. You attract what you project.
Yeah.
And staying, it's like, the practice of equanimity, which is a fancy word, but it's just staying on center and being able to respond rather than react. which I practice all the time, doesn't mean that I'm not out of balance a lot of the time. It's just how quickly you can recover back to balance and do that. And I'll tell you a couple of anecdotes from what you said. Was I saw The Secret too a long time ago when I came to LA, and I and it was very very out there for me, and I watched it, and I just immediately called bullshit. Okay, so I'm going to sit on the couch, I'm going to think about what's great's going to happen, and I just totally dispensed with it. And then years later, I was listening to a different speaker talk about something different, and they there's this Quaker saying, and that's pray but move your feet. And when she said that, I was like, wait a second. Okay, now I understand The Secret. It's The Secret plus move your feet. And I will tell you, I said my script to get lunch or coffee with people that I wanted to. I went to see Jack Canfield speak. And Jack Canfield is sort of had the book that changed things for me. And Jack Canfield has a bunch of these books.
Right.
And
Chicken Soup, right?
Yeah. Well, Chicken Soup is where he made the money. Okay. And then he has all these other, he made a lot of money on the Chicken Soup thing. Okay. And he'll tell you even when he speaks, he's like, look, I'm super grateful for that, my co-author, but I'm really on this spiritual journey. And he was a school teacher. He was making, $60,000 a year. He couldn't figure it out. And he put this big thing about how much money and all his plans, pasted it on the wall above his bed. So when he was laying down, he couldn't help getting it permeating. And he had 3 or 4 or 5 books, explaining various things. But then he took one book called The Success Principles, and he combined all the stuff from his other books. And I got it on books on tape. And that's what I used to listen to when I did the Santa Monica Stairs. And so, you can only pay 20, 30% attention, but I listened to the whole thing. It's probably 8 or 9 hours, time I listened to it every time I went to the stairs, which was every day. So, I had listened to this thing a dozen times, and then I went to see him speak, and I waited in line, and I said to Jack Canfield, what would it take to earn the right to get coffee with you? And he said, you just have. And I go, okay. And he gives me the number to his assistant. And let me tell you, at that moment in time, this is where Santiago and I differed. I called his assistant maybe 8 or 9 times, and it just never stuck. And then I gave up. And then I never had coffee with Jack Canfield. And if I had stuck at it, we probably knew each other by then. Okay. and Santiago's a new agent and I own the firm, I could be like, hey, Santiago, Jack Canfield won't have lunch with me. Yeah. I called him 7 times. What should I do? He'd be like, dude, you know the answer to this. It's call him 70 times. It won't take 70, but you'll get lunch with it. He said yes, right? I go, yeah. He gave you it's his real assistance number. Make that shit happen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take your advice now, Santiago, and keep that in mind.
And it's also another lesson, as you said. There's something to learn from everyone if you're open and receptive to it. Period.
Absolutely.
We all know that Santiago can teach us a lot now.
But also Santiago can keep learning a lot more from you guys too. So let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help myself because Joe Dispenza is a guy that I've heard a bit about but haven't dug into, and I think I will. I shifted. I used to teach it, and then finally I did it. I would watch crazy stuff at night before I went to bed, and then I'd wake up and I want I'm having nightmares. I had a therapist. I was I never have nightmares. I'm having nightmares now. And she's like, well, what are you doing before you go to bed? And I'm like, watching Game of Thrones. And she was like, yeah. And as soon as she was like, Joe, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, never mind. That's why I'm having nightmares. Yeah. And finally I shifted to I don't know. I'd have to check with Sarah, but how many months?
Different show?
How many months ago I started listening to Bob Proctor's.
He's awesome.
Bob Proctor's abundance meditation, just for lack of a better thing. And how many months has it been? A year? Yeah. So every single night before I go to bed, I put it on 20. It's 20 minutes long. I mean, I've heard the end of it
A few times?
A few times, yeah. And it just, and there might be something better to listen to, but I shifted that. So
Joe just came up actually, I think 2 days ago with a new abundance program on his website. If you look at his website.
So I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
But Joe Dispenza's top principles, because this is what's great about having, internet access. Cultivate gratitude for what you have. Change your energy by aligning thoughts and feelings with your desired future. And healing and manifestation happen when you feel whole and complete in the present.
Yep.
That's powerful. Very powerful, and
chills are.
Yeah. And to know that in reading that, even somebody that follows Joe Dispenza and also, has manifested so much that it's a journey. It's not a destination. You're not just going to land there and be like, okay, great. Now, I feel whole and complete in the present. You're going to be like, well, I feel like 45% whole and complete in the present. How do I get to like 48%? It's always moving in that direction. It always comes back to
my statement of happiness is progress. Like if you're progressing and you feel like you're improving, you're going to be happy. And that's unique to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to shift us for a minute to sort of more current. Okay. So tell us like where your business is now and where you'd like it to be 3 years from now, and where is your focus and what are your priorities?
And also before that, which we should have done anyway, is tell us about some business highlights. What's the biggest year you ever had or whatever, to put it into context for those that I know you're a rock star.
Yeah. So why don't we start then I'll come back and repeat. Like,
I don't really track numbers as closely as most agents do. Like I have an accountant because I don't track what I spend on this too much. I don't like to be like, oh, how much money? I just don't do it. It's not my personality. Like the worst nightmare that I could have is having a dream that I'm an accountant. Like the worst thing you can do to me. So the same way with numbers. I think that my biggest year, I did 680, 685, something like that. I probably for most part in the last 10 years, I keep an average between 3 and 500.
100 million, 680 million, just for everyone's closed volume. So for those
that's a big difference. Yeah. So
with no team, right? It's just me. It's just me and my assistant, right? Which I get compared to a lot. And that's the whole thing with the Wall Street Journal and all these things.
It's not apples
I'm always
to apples.
Competing with the guys that have 40 people in their team and they all run it under their name. And so that's just to put in perspective.
For frame of reference, we're talking about really a single agent. Obviously, I'm sure you have some admin help that's just top year, $685 million,
And just to give, without getting too in the granular, that's like, 12-ish million, I'm going to guess, depending on the commission. I'm pretty good at that stuff.
Sure.
That's $12 million of like gross commission. Sorry,
maybe
more. I mean,
that's right. Depending.
Yeah. So number-wise, that I think highlights. I mean, I've had an incredible journey with opportunity to work with really incredible people, like from tech CEOs to health people and huge hedge fund businessmen and celebrities and, and all that kind of stuff. Right now, for me, what gets me really excited is more the development side of it, which I'm finishing my 6th spec house. I've done high-end spec homes, and I like it because although the real estate career has been super fun, and I'm grateful for everything that happened, and I enjoy what I do, and I think I'm good at what I do. Growing up, I remember, and this came to me not too far, a few years from now, I wanted to be an architect. Wow. I love like literally playing with my matchbox in the river with my cousins, building roads and houses and imagining this is my house. I have these cars and all this stuff. But I really like the design and the drawing part of it. And so there was a creative side of me that by where you grow up and everything, they told me architects don't make money and the computers are going to take over architects. Little bit they know that actually computers enhance the architecture, work. I shut that down, right? So I studied business because business is what you need to study and architecture not. And as I got into real estate and I got to go on beautiful, amazing houses and enjoy that, and that kind of woke up again to where I decided to do spec homes, right? So I don't do many, but I do one every 2-3 years. And I get to express myself from the creation of out of nothing. You create a house and I put my taste and my whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
So that I'm enjoying. I'm finishing a project right now in Brentwood that I should put it on the market in the next 2 weeks, I think.
And so what price?
I haven't decided yet. Somewhere between 55 and 60 million.
Between 55 and 60 million. And also the other thing too is having the opportunity to have your brain on, yes, all that creative stuff, but you also know what's going to sell, and you're able to put that, reverse engineering into it. Whereas, an architect or an owner, builder or whatever is not necessarily going to.
No way.
I guarantee you, I don't even have to ask you, how many times you've had a house that's in a great neighborhood that has great square footage, maybe a great view, and it should be worth, pick a number, 20 million all day long, and you just can't sell it for 20 million because this is wrong and that's wrong and all the bedrooms are on the bottom floor, or whatever the thing is. And you're like, okay, if the bedrooms were just over here instead, or you're manifesting not just your creative, but also what would sell. Is that right?
Yeah, it is a combination of the experience, the skill, and being in the front lines as an agent, working with the buyers or showing the houses to the buyers who are telling you what they want. Right, like the trends change. The dark floors. I wish they were lighter now. I wish they were gray. Right. I wish that's the. Where's the tap for the baby, right? Developers that build houses with no tap, all our showers. So you always need to do one with a tap. All that gives me a unique advantage. Because the reason why I got into do spec homes is because I started to work with a lot of developers. And within working with the developers,
they wanted your insight.
Somebody wanted the insight, right?
Sure.
And they saw the value to the point where first was, find me the land, I'll give you the listing. Then it was, find me the land, help me with the floor plans, or help me with this, or the designs. The ones that don't have huge egos, right? Because I remember one developer that regrets it. I'm the developer, because I was suggesting stuff. It's like, you're the broker, you sell it, I'm the builder. I said, oh, okay. So, but it got to a point where like I'm giving this input, and some of them were like, we not only give you the listing, but we'll pay you consulting fee, right? So now I'm like generating multiple sources of income, right? I'm getting a secure listing, and I make usually them sign a listing agreement that expires 6 months after the certificate of occupancy.
Wow, nice.
Because I've been in the place where I got sold in the lot. I'm going there once a month, call it, or sometimes more. And now all of a sudden I get a phone call. It's like, hey, we're almost done, but we sold it to someone that knocked on the door. And thank you very much. Cool, but not cool, right? So now, and then there is we pay a fee for your advice and all that. So and then at that point on time, I remember saying, you know what, they're making so much money, I can do this for myself. So that's how I got into development too.
That would have been great advice for me, because I did similarly, I got a listing that was dirt only, and they were going to build 1,000 units. It's in Tehachapi, which is a very nice place, but the price point is a lot lower. You're probably looking at 600,000 a home times 1,000. You can do that math. And that's a very, very big listing for sure. But it took so long that, that listing contract expired long before they did anything. Now, I was able to add value because they were having trouble with entitlements, and I was able to roll up my sleeves and help them with entitlements. I just switched to CEO of the project, which I charged for. But then finally I learned what Santiago just said, because I had no listing, not even close to a listing contract at that point in time. And I just said, I'm going to be the sales consultant for a certain percentage of the total. So like, hire whoever you want. Like, maybe you'll hire me, maybe you won't, but I'm going to get a certain percentage. I was able to do that at a new place of leverage, because you can't get anybody, it's not just, they're not going to just do that. It was when we were getting entitlements, like if we get the entitlements, I want this fee for entitlements, and, you can choose whoever you want to sell, but I want X percent. And that's one way to do it. So, I might get the listing, but I know for sure it says all the things I have to do. They're not dumb, and make a certain number of presentations and introductions and all that kind of stuff, and assist with the sales, and that's enough for me for sure.
Yep. What do you enjoy most about just the brokerage side?
The people who you meet, who you get to. I become friends with a lot of my clients and build amazing relationships, which open up opportunities to invest in so many different things and opportunities that you get. I'm dealing with top CEOs of great companies, and some of them are just they're starting up, or they're starting a different one, and they say, hey, would you want to invest in this one? I'm like, sure.
It's going to sound like a weird question, but who are you being in order to have and create? I'm not even talking about generating the lead. Now you have a track record. So now you get, this powerful CEO that wants, $25 million for a house that's really worth $22 million. I mean, this happens. This is in his everyday.
I wish the gap was actually closer.
I know. Right.
Yeah, right. That's right. Actually, yeah, right. And
he wants 32 and it's worth 22.
Exactly. Okay, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, that's more like it. So who are you being in that relationship that allows you to be somebody that they like and not in opposition to them? That afterwards, that when your seller thinks it's worth 32 and it's worth 24. And you want the deal and you want to work with them, and they're just like, they want to tell you why. They want to tell you why you have the open house. Not that many people turn up, and they're like, what do you do? They want to fire you and go with the next big name or whatever. Who are you being that is able to maintain the relationship? And
before you answer that, I'm curious to know, what are you doing at the outset when you believe that? And then subsequently, what's that conversation look like once you've held the open house or had it on the market for a bit, and then you've got to have that conversation?
Well, there's a lot of variables that affect that answer, right? There's market, there's economy, there's this, there's that. So putting all that aside and being aware, we're talking about now, right? Because in the earlier career, I taken listings that they were overpriced because you have to, right? Like sometimes for me it was, if I have 10 listings and 3 of them are overpriced, that's okay.
Sure.
At this stage in my career, because time, is the most precious thing, right? Most valuable thing. And also, for me, is being honest. I think if you're honest from day one and they want 32 and it's worth 25, and you have the honest conversation where, look, this is reality, right? You're a smart person. Things usually go well because we had this conversation and I usually formalize it with an email. So it's not like, no, you never say that, right? It's like, here's an email.
Very important.
I said that was 25, right?
Yep.
So
that's great.
Manage expectations that are documented.
I know, and the other challenge that comes in those conversations is that person will be like, so you don't believe in my house?
Yes, I like that. Yeah,
right?
I like it. Yep.
It was not about that, okay? And what I answer normally, I say, look, this is going to be a relationship. For a period of time, we're going to text, we're going to email, we're going to talk, we're going to do all these things. So your decision should be based on somebody that you actually have a synergy and your energy kind of, you want to have it. Because if you don't like me from day one, and I don't, by the way, I pass on listings because I can, sorry, I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
Like personality wise, it's not going to work. But when it gets to the point where like you don't believe in my thing, I say, look, I'm being honest with you. These are the comps. Yes, your house is an amazing house, but cannot be 10 million more amazing than these comps, right? Maybe it's 2 million more for reasons that we're going to find. But right now I'm wearing my honest, professional hat, having this discussion that I think is worth 25 and you want to try 29, I'll go for it. And I'll go full force. And what I'll do is I'll change hats. I'll put my salesperson hat that represents you, and I will tell everybody why this house is worth 29. Believe me, as a salesperson, I'll justify and I'll push it for people to buy the house for 29. But I need to have this conversation with you because there's a possibility that we're going to have to reduce the price, that we're not going to have showings, that this is going to happen, and 3 weeks are going to, you're going to ask me why nobody's showing it, and it's going to be because we are overpriced, right?
Yep.
So some people like that, and some people, they just don't. They just want to hear a story, and for me, it's like, okay, well, then maybe I'm not the guy. And in many cases, they call me back. Not the second agent or the third agent, and then you come in and then you sell it, right? Yeah. So that's a challenge right now because there's a lot of younger people that are getting into the business. And yes, because, you know, in the beginning, like I did, you want to take some of the listings, but there's some people, they just are misinforming the consumer and the sellers, and it just hurts everyone. Mainly the sellers, because when you missed by a lot in put in the market, you go in the back burner, but not the back burner of the main kitchen. You go in the back burner of the guest house. And you know why? Because technology, because with these phones right now, every buyer has access now to every property, and they sign up for notifications in their phone. So every time that a new property comes in there within criteria, they're going to get a ting in their phone, and they're going to look at it. They're going to be like, oh, and they're going to scroll down, and they're going to look at what the comps are, but they don't really know. Very few people do. And they're going to say, this is completely overpriced. Let's wait until they reduce the price. Now you've gone into the back burner of the guest house. And the only way to bring it back is to listing it again at the right price and getting that ding in your phone again, because the next thing that goes in their phone and the house is priced well, there's the one they're going to say, oh, we got to go and look at this house, going to go quick. And that's the house that 3 or 4 people are going to bid on it, and it's going to sell. So where do you want to be?
And I was going to ask you to actually role play that with me, and I feel like you've sort of done that because, you know, I'm the seller, and I'll morph it a little bit. I'm the seller, and you know, I think it's worth 32. The market's really saying 25 is where you're going to get a bunch of interest, and maybe I have 28 million into it because I bought it, you know.
And that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
And it happens. It happened to me recently.
And not only that, Santiago, because I greatly respect all the things you've done, because I'm being the seller now. Not only that, Santiago, I just had a meeting with, I won't mention the name, so-and-so who sells a lot of real estate at this price. And he told me 32, let's go. So now you're telling me 25, and I can see that, you know, I might not get 32, but why do I want to, what in the world, why don't I go with this guy who's sold so many $32 million houses? He told me that he's got in his Rolodex, you know, a bunch of people that are buyers in that price range.
That's a good one. Rolodex. I think the agent's Rolodex is important, but I think the buyers that are out there looking out there are the same buyers. Any agent's going to be happy to make a 2 or 2.5% commission depending on the price, and they're not going to not show your house because you didn't take him as a listing agent. That's complete BS, right? Someone's telling you that, then they can help you. How quick you need to sell the house? You have a year? You have 2 years? Do you need to sell now? Because it's going to be depending on that. And if you have the time to sell it in a long time and you want to give it a shot, I'll try it with you knowing what my opinion is. But if you're telling me that you need to sell it right now and someone can deliver that, then maybe that person can do it better than me.
That's
and I think it's also the takeaway. It's the willingness to walk away and know your value. And people, you know, the human nature is to some degree want what you think.
There's so many of those you can take, because what's going to happen is, let's say at all times you have a few that are overpriced, right? They tend to be the clients, they need more attention. Right? So now, out of the day, you're talking, and most of the times is the unhappy person that is calling you to tell you what you're not doing to sell their house, right? And oftentimes you're on the phone and they won't hang up, and the call from the person that is paying you a full commission that is realistic on the number is coming in, and you might not be talking to that person because you're trying to piece the other person that is actually going to go anywhere, right? So it's like
it spills over. It's like we're human beings.
For me, it's just, you know, once in a while you can kind of like, I feel sometimes I'm looking at I have a big board in my office with everybody that I'm working with, and once in a while I call it a cleanup. Once in a while I go, you know what? I'm going to give back this listing. I'm going to give back this listing. I'm going to give back this. Thank you so much. I'm going to clear this to welcome new business that they're going to actually sell.
Yep. As great as some of us are, I'm sure all of us at compartmentalizing, we're still human beings, man. It spills through. And I think it's an important thing to understand that. And as you're talking about, it's just making me think about my own world, I'm always about like work with people who are willing and who are grateful, because the energy that gives everyone is invaluable, and those that aren't, it's draining.
The thing is, in our industry, there's a lot of people in the business and a lot of personalities and a lot of ways how to do it, and a lot of them that they don't do a good job, they don't make us look good, right? So if we were in a business where you will be called to sell a house, just like that person goes to the dentist to get a root canal and opens their mouth and lets the dentist do the work, not tell him how they should clean your teeth or do this or how to inject you with the anesthesia, it would be amazing. And I give this example. I said, you go to a dentist, a professional that is qualified, that has a track record, just like me. Let me sell your house. Let me help you, right? And you'll be surprised how many people they go, okay, you're right. And there's nothing better to work with somebody that, you get used to, like, what would you like? Would you like this? Like, when you hear that a client tells you, you're the professional, I signed the listing, call me when you have an offer, is the best feeling, because now you feel like they respect who you are, why you're here for, why you're getting paid for, and guess what? Who you're going to work harder for.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And my guess too is when you do that client cleanup, let's say there's 4 listings you want to get rid of, there's probably at least one when you call them, they go, you know what? Never mind. I don't want you to fire me as a client. I'll do what you say. We'll because you really you're at that moment in time, you're really calling with, again, the energy and the attitude of like, look, I tried for you and, it's not working at 32 million. You were considering using, John Smith. I think it's probably time for you to call John Smith.
It just happened to me right now.
Yeah.
Like literally, I opened an escrow yesterday on a big listing that expired the day before. I had my exclusions. And as we are about to expire, we get an offer, we're negotiating, there's a number that I think they should take. And right there, and he's like, well, our listing expires tomorrow. If you cannot get him at the number that I want, which is an unrealistic number, I already met with this and this person. They told me that it's worth 5 more than where we are right now with this offer. And I literally said that. I said, look, I believe that this is the best number you're going to get. And you're either going to realize that in 6 months when this person is telling you this and it doesn't perform and it's going to be too late, or you're going to move on with your life, take this offer, trust me that I'm telling you the truth. And if not, we're done anyway. Like, I send you my exclusion list, the listing is up, it's been a pleasure, good luck. Yeah. 3 hours later, sign the listing, I'm an escrow.
I love it. I want to ask one more question and then we'll hit the fire round. I mean, we could go
forever.
On forever. This is amazing. Yeah. One question I have for you is this. So now we've had a great conversation, and you know what? I admit, I agree with you. The house is not 32. I'm not going to go with the other guy. I'm going to go ahead and go with you. Let's lower the price into something that's, less, stratospheric, and say, 10 million, somebody else is saying it's worth, I want 12. I've got somebody else who's going to sign it at 12. You've convinced me, 10. In fact, let's not go 10. We're going to go 950 because we want to get under the search, so when people are searching, I'll even go for that. However, that same guy that was saying they're going to do it at 12, they're taking the listing at 1%, and I'd like you to take the listing at 1%. And before you yell at me or whatever you're going to do, let me just say that one of the other things that you said is that, like, that guy's Rolodex is sort of BS because it's really the buyers, and you've convinced me. And if I price this thing right, that we're not going to have much trouble selling. And you've convinced me. And now I want you to meet me at the 1%.
I don't do 1%. That's just not what I do. I think everybody has a fee. If you're gonna hire someone that's gonna pull down the pants that fast, they're gonna do the same thing with the buyer and the buyer's agent. If you don't see that value on someone that fights for their own money, what makes you think they're gonna fight for your money?
Yep.
Do you have a comment for that? That's pretty good.
That's it. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and then you've got to be ready to say,
okay,
yeah, go with the other guy.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, go ahead, go and buy the flip-flops that cost $2, or go and buy the nice Hawaiianas that cost 20, whatever they cost these days, right? So it's there is truth to, there is inflated prices on things, but there is a reason why that person charges less. There's a desperation on the creation of that reduction of the price is because there's a desperation underneath of wanting to get the business, but not in the right way. It's not wanting to get the business because I want to sell this house. It's I want to get this business because I'd rather make 1% out of something than nothing. And that's not the person you want to hire. It's just not.
Right.
Yep. As I always say, price only matters in the absence of value. And
that's it. Yeah. And that's okay. Like the beauty of this world is that you get to choose that, right? And
we are where we are based on the choices we've made, right? Period. So brilliant. Freaking awesome. Love it. All right, you ready to hit the fire round?
Let's do it. Okay. So we're going to ask, a lot of these are deep questions, so it could be, especially with you, such a deep thinker, it could be, a whole discussion, but we're going to ask, we're not going to respond because we're going to keep going through it, and we call it the fire round.
Just didn't realize, but will 20 minutes be okay?
We'll be done in 5.
We'll be done in 5.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we call it the fire round.
All right.
Yep.
What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Is enjoying the present moment.
What's the greatest compliment you've ever received?
You're easy to be loved.
Wow. What's your greatest fear?
To have fear.
What's the most valuable attribute you admire in others?
Honesty.
What attribute do you have that you think has the most value to others?
Discipline.
Who do you most admire and why?
Are we talking about living person or
however you want to?
I admire Jesus Christ.
What talent would you most like to have?
I love so many things. I don't know which one to pick. Which talent? I think that the talent to discover what is your talent.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Contribution.
So, one great thing about LA is it's got ocean, it's got mountains. You go on a hike, steep hike, get all the way up to the top of the steep hike, and you look down, and there's your family and your friends and your colleagues and your community, and you shout one thing. What do you shout?
Love.
I love it.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Great stuff, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.